Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Welcome to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson. It is November 12th, 2014, and here's a look at our top stories.
Tonight, as gun ownership in America increases, murders and other violent crimes drop to a 45-year low. Meanwhile, police killings register the highest in 2 decades. Plus, D.C. schools strip Christmas from the calendar after Muslims complain. And Rob Dew takes a look at the unseen forces behind the latest Nickelback CD.
I can't believe I'm doing a Nickelback video.
All that plus much more up next on the Infowars Nightly News.
We hear a lot about violence here in the United States of America, but it turns out that according to the FBI, we're at a 45-year low. The FBI reported that the number of murders and non-negligent homicides fell last year 4.4% to about 14,000, the lowest total since 1968. The murder rate has also been dropping and stands at 4.5 per 100,000 population. Firearms were used in 69% of the murders in 2013. But it's still my understanding that you're more likely to be stabbed, punched to death, or beat with a hammer than you are to be killed by a fully automatic firearm. But then begs the question, why are they trying to ban the fully automatic firearms? I guess they have nothing better to do. And we'll talk more about firearm deaths in 1 second. But for right now, let's go to FBI.gov and take a look at the chart. And we start in 2009, and you can see all the way down to 2013, there was a stark drop in violent offenses. But, you know, because we have a lot of 24-hour coverage, we have a lot of citizen journalists, we have a lot of social media, you hear more about things that would, 20 years ago be a local news story. And talking about the FBI, don't forget that they put down a zero sum for the murders in Sandy Hook. Could be a glitch, I'm just telling you that it happens to be there. Now let's talk more about these shootings and talking about specifically police. Police killings highest in 2 decades. The number of felony suspects fatally shot by police last year, 461. Was the most in 2 decades, according to a new FBI report. The justifiable homicide count contained in the FBI's annual Uniform Crime Report has become increasingly scrutinized in recent months as questions continue to be raised about the use of lethal force by law enforcement. And not just lethal force, but also the supposed non-lethal force, the tasers, the pepper spray, the sound cannons. We've seen repeatedly people being tased and having a cardiac arrest going into seizures, people who could not comply with the officer's wishes because before being tased, they had some type of health condition, and then so, they're having a seizure or whatever, then the officer tases them for non-compliance. Completely ridiculous. What if you pepper spray somebody with asthma? They could suffocate to death, but that hasn't stopped them from using the non-lethal alternatives. And there's also a graph that you can see on Infowars.com, the justifiable homicides involving the killing of a suspected felon by law enforcement officer in the line of duty. And while we see a lot of police shootings, there's also a lot of violence on our border. And now we see our Border Patrol agents being disarmed because of equipment malfunctions. Border Patrol agents say agency's gun recall puts them in danger. Nearly 1/3 of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection's 16,000 M4 carbine rifles were tested by the agency's Office of Training and Development, which determined that more than 2,000 had the potential to malfunction. But in the meantime, Border Patrol agents are dubious about the department's claims, given that the gun's manufacturer, Colt, has not issued a recall. And they said they don't want to pull their weapons, they don't want to have to share a weapon with a friend, they don't want to have to potentially go out unarmed. And you think about the Border Patrol, and people say, well, you don't want the police and the military and all these feds to have a monopoly of force. I don't want that. But also, when we look at the border situation, we see that the opposition of the Border Patrol, these cartels and these other insidious entities, are fully armed, and they got a lot of those weapons during Operation Fast and Furious. So we'll take guns away from the Border Patrol, and maybe they do have some equipment malfunction, but they need something to defend themselves in the interim. But meanwhile, we're shipping guns to Mexico with Operation Fast and Furious. It makes no sense. We'll arm these guys and then take away the weapons that they need, the Border Patrol needs to defend themselves. It's completely ridiculous. but that's what's happening on our border. But a little bit above the border, Texas. We see some potential good legislation coming through in the state of Texas. We see Texas lawmakers introduce bills for both open and constitutional carry. These bills, to include 2 addressing open carry and the 3rd for constitutional carry, are backed by Republican lawmakers in the wake of Governor-elect Greg Abbott's public announcement last week to sign such a measure should they make it to his desk in Austin. And it says these are entered into the early sessions to be looked at in about 2 months. If you guys have been paying attention to the news, you've seen in Texas a lot of open carry marches, people walking around with shotgun rifles, black powder pistols on their hips. None of those things are illegal to carry in the state of Texas, but you can't carry a pistol on your hip and you can't carry a pistol without a concealed carry permit, and these laws are looking to change that. And to all the people who are anti-open carry, they don't like these guys going to Starbucks or wherever else they may go, would you feel more satisfied if these guys didn't have an AK-47, but they had, a 6-shooter on their hip? Would you be more confident with that, or they had a Glock or something that's not as ominous as a rifle? Of course, I have no issue with people carrying around pistols or shotguns or whatever else. They happened here in the city of Austin. They locked down a school for part of the day because a guy was transporting a shotgun from his apartment down to his car. And they're like, oh, what's this guy going to do? He's probably going out duck hunting. But everybody completely freaked out about it.
Another major health threat, this one in Toledo, Ohio, where everybody in the entire city has been told not to drink the water.
Ohio's governor declaring a state of emergency.
Did you know that the average person uses about 80 to 100 gallons of water at home every single day? If there's a water emergency, will you be prepared?
Panicked residents forming long lines throughout the day.
We're here at a supermarket in Toledo. You can see the shelves empty where water once was.
To stay safe and healthy during a crisis, you must have access to safe, clean water. Water which will not be available at your local grocery store.
There's a mad dash on right now to stock up on supplies.
The ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system is a must-have for every modern, independently minded household. Protect your family's safety during an emergency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com today to purchase your ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system or call 1-888-253-3139.